Hi, and welcome to Sprout Sessions, where our pros pull back the curtain on what it really takes to build, manage, and grow a successful website. We're here to answer your questions and share what we've learned from working on real-world websites every day, so that your website can work harder and you can focus on what you love.
Before we dive in, here's a quick intro. We're CYBERsprout, a web design and development team based in Minnesota. This year, we're celebrating 10 years of helping organizations bring their website ideas to life.
In that time, we've built custom websites for over 300 clients. Our goal? Websites that look amazing and perform even better, bringing in leads, streamlining content, and helping our clients grow.
What really sets us apart is our team. Between us, we have decades of experience in the web development, user experience, SEO, and digital marketing space. We bring all of these to the table for you in these sessions.
This series moves fast, but don't worry, we're here if you want to dive deeper. You can visit us anytime at cybersprout.net and click Let's Connect at the top of the page. We've also dropped the link in the video description.
If content like this helps you out, do us a favor. Like this video and hit subscribe. It's the best way to stay in the loop as we roll out more website tips, tools, and ideas for navigating today's digital world.
All right, we're glad you're here. Let's get into it. This is Sprout Sections.
So another question we get often is my website mobile friendly and responsive? And this is a very common one that we inherit from sites we take on for redesigns. A significant portion of web traffic originates from mobile devices, making responsive design essential for reaching a broad audience. In 2025 alone, 63.9% of global traffic is on mobile devices. So this is really more important than ever. And Brad, why don't you kick us off and share your thoughts on mobile friendly and responsive design?
Sure. So two things come to mind related to that. So I'm going to take the first one and then I'm going to ask somebody else to cover the second part. So the first is my website responsive? And probably the easiest way to test that is to either get on your phone and pull up your website. A fully responsive website, everything should shift and morph. In the industry, we call that breakpoints. So you should see things start to stack as a screen gets more narrow. If you start to see a bunch of scroll bars along the side, your website's not mobile responsive. Somebody's actually having to drag and get your website content. Everything should shift and morph. I would just get on like my phone. If you don't have a phone, another way you can emulate that is just to take your window on your screen and make it really narrow. Just drag everything in and make your window on your desktop more narrow and see if things start to stack. There's also online tools out there too that if you just do a Google for mobile responsive tester, you can put your website URL in and it will try to infer whether it thinks your website's responsive or not and give you a quick answer to that. But so that's how to tell whether your website's responsive. Now, whether it's mobile friendly or not, there's a lot of other things that you want to take in consideration about how a user is interacting with your website and whether that makes it mobile friendly or not. I'm going to open that up to the team and let them share what are some of the things that they think about, especially the design team, as they're considering where things should go on a screen as the real estate gets more narrow.
So as far as images go, another thing just to keep in mind if you're having professional images done is that they'll crop differently on different devices. So often things will crop to more of a portrait standpoint, and it's a lot easier to take a horizontal image or a landscape image and bring that down to a vertical. Although I will say generative expand is getting a lot better in terms of if you have a vertical and you want to make it wider. So that's just something to keep in mind too as you're going. And often your website builder tool will have something built in where you can adjust the position if needed. But there are times where you might have to do a different image or a slightly different version of that image for mobile versus desktop.
Absolutely. Some other elements that we pay attention to and that you in general should pay attention to make sure that your site is mobile friendly is to make sure that the text is clear and readable at different sizes on different devices. Elements that have resized properly. So definitely like the image example that Beth just gave, things like a user-friendly navigation system. So it changes. I'm sure we've all seen the 3 lines. We call it the hamburger menu rather than the full navigation or a big tall list of links. And then making sure that everything loads quickly. So not only image orientation, right, Beth, but making sure that we have properly optimized, really slim file-sized images so that we don't have the mobile version of the page trying to pull in all the heavy resources that the desktop does.
Another thing I'll add, when you work with a company, like a professional company, like a CyberSprout, a lot of times too, we'll help you think through whether everything needs to be on both a desktop and a phone version. There's sometimes where you can make a strategic decision to say, hey, on a mobile device, this isn't quite as important, or other things are more important. And you might choose the ordering or choose to omit things in a mobile environment as well. So those are some more advanced type decisions that can be made on website design, rather than just is everything there and it stacks correctly. So
Absolutely. Beth, I'm sure you do as well, but there's definitely design elements that I'll hide on mobile devices if they're just not adding to the overall functionality and feel of the page.
Yeah, I'll do that, or I'll duplicate the row and make one of them show on desktop and one of them show on mobile, so I can arrange them slightly differently.
Absolutely. Nate, what are some of the things you look for when you're doing speed testing, launching a site specifically for mobile?
Before I get to that question or that answer, I wanted to touch back. Michael, you brought up with the navigation menu, right, for mobile, moving it into a hamburger type of user experience. When it comes to other functionalities on the website, particularly e-commerce shopping pages. Let's say you have a vast array of products and you have multiple different filtering, think like Amazon, right? You're filtering on like sizes or colors. One thing that you really want to pay attention to in that scenario is that those filters are user friendly on a mobile device as well, not just taking up a lot of the real estate that you have on a narrow device. You want those to be functionally adequate for that user and a pleasant experience. So we do what we call off canvas fly in, if you will, to bring up those filters. User can then grab, filter whatever they want on those products, and then it updates the main bulk of the page so they can see the products in the shop page. So that's another thing to keep in mind with mobile as well.
Excellent.
And could you clarify your question again?
Absolutely. So you often run speed tests right before launch for new sites. What do you look for to help optimize the mobile page loading, overall site speed when you're running those tests and tweaking to improve those numbers?
Touching back on earlier in our conversations, file sizes, the image sizes, the content delivery network, all those play a very key role that really ultimately affects mobile. So if you're hitting all those points along the way during the development of the website and the design of the website, it falls into place when it comes to mobile. So I can't remember, I think 800, 900 milliseconds per time per byte. Tyler, I don't know if I'm right on that, but
as a benchmark?
As the benchmark, right. So if you can get your time to first loading, I forget which one it is, but if you can get that under that benchmark, then you're pretty set.
Right. And that's where those tools that Brad mentioned to run a mobile speed test and mobile friendliness test will come in really handy, because you can look at those specific metrics. Tyler, do you want to touch on the SEO importance of mobile friendly sites?
Yeah, something that Google did a number of years ago is they stopped considering a website just as one whole website. They started looking at the mobile version and the desktop version. And so you're optimizing your website for mobile users. They might have slightly different intent. They may be on the go. They may be looking for like contact information, something to act upon. Mobile users tend to be a lot more actionable or action oriented. And so keep that in mind, that they might not be the exact same user group, and you might be catering to them slightly different. Some elements also that, thinking of what you're talking about, Michael, where some can enhance on desktop can actually be a detriment on mobile. To just build on that a little bit more, some that can be tricky, I think about like maps, where when you start scrolling, sometimes you get stuck scrolling on the map instead of actually scrolling down the website. If you don't have it properly configured, it can create a frustration point for users. Or things like PDFs. I'm not the biggest fan of PDFs anyways on websites, but they can be fine on desktop, and on a mobile, when they open up, they can be very small. You have to scroll around to try and find information. So certain elements like that can be very frustrating for mobile users that are just fine on desktop.
Yeah, not to mention PDFs often need a different app to power them, or a viewer. Some others from a design perspective that often involve a workaround and some extra attention on mobile are tabs, accordions, and any sort of tabular data, so tables, which HTML does a great job with, but once you get it down to a 2 or 3 column, sometimes that can be just a mess unless you've planned specifically for it. Angie and Stephanie, from a sales perspective, how often and how frustrating is this for clients that come to you and they've had, quite frankly, shoddy design sites where they're not, this hasn't been taken into account?
Honestly, it's really about what they have on their site and all of those pieces, like Beth was saying. Some stuff is it's not good for the mobile part. And we have to pay attention to the user's experience. That should be first and foremost. And I think when you're working with CyberSprout specifically, we talk about all your goals and all of the things that you want to do for your user. And Google is hip to that. They want the user experience to be first and foremost. So to go through that and paying attention to that, it plays into all the pieces that we're talking about for sure, but that mobile piece especially.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I've seen it a lot with clients with older websites that haven't been touched since 2007. And people weren't looking at websites on their phones. We didn't have that capability yet. So they're really wonky when you try to Google search them and bring it up on your phone.
Yep. That's a great point. And it's really easy to find out what devices your users are viewing your site on. You go into Google Analytics, you can get it from Google Search Console, you can get it from any number of tools to get an analysis of how people are experiencing your site. And if most people are coming in via mobile and you don't have any special considerations paid to that, you're going to be losing customers and losing visitors.
We show people how to do that with their existing site all the time, because that's the prospect stage. When they've just called CyberSprout to get a quote or what have you, we explain to them, go here and check this out and see what's going on with your site right now. Because then let's double down on the stuff we're doing great and let's fix the stuff that needs to be fixed.
Absolutely.
Also, your company can lose out on things. I'm just thinking my husband was applying for a different job a few weeks ago and the site was not working even on his iPad. And he was getting so frustrated and he stuck it out, but I imagine that they lost applicants because of that.
It can definitely affect recruitment for sure. Absolutely.
I always tell clients, no matter what your industry, you should be viewing and experiencing your site the same way your customers are. If you're a restaurant, you want to see how your menus look on mobile. All links to PDFs, are they a big mess at the table? It's really easy to put yourself in their shoes, and those are things you can easily address working with a company like us.
One thing I do like too is that a lot of browsers have little emulators built in, like Chrome. If you right click and inspect, you got the little icon on the top that you can use to simulate different devices. It's not perfect all the time, but it's a good preview for different devices and a quick look to be able to see it.
The last thing I was going to touch on too is a lot of the DIY builders, they'll have some mobile responsive features there, but it's going to be on you to figure out where those are and how you want those things to be set up. So it's one of the things that I think a lot of times when people DIY a website, they don't know that it's there. And then when they get in, they're like, I don't even know how to do this. So it's something to keep in mind as you start to get into those other platforms, that all that responsibility is going to be on you as the DIYer to consider it and make sure you have set up the way that you want to.
And all the updates going forward, better not miss anything. That can, because it could affect your mobile immediately.
And those browser tools and the DIY tools that give you that shell of another device, those emulators, those are good, but don't rely on those 100%. It doesn't replace bringing it up on a phone. You don't have to bring it up on every phone, but bring it up on a phone, bring it up on a tablet at some point in the development to make sure that it's looking as it's supposed to.
It's interesting too when you see alternating layouts where it goes like image, text, image, and back and forth. And then all of a sudden you stack it for mobile. It goes text, image, and then it's a goofy experience for mobile. It's not something you think about. It's like those little things like that.
It's something we all think about, right? And we, as consumers, we're thinking, ooh, I'm going to call her, or I'm going to have Angie and Stephanie take a peek. But
definitely,
that's the things you just have to keep top of mind.
From a design perspective, that's exactly, I wouldn't call it the extra bit of attention that you need to pay to those, but it's certainly worthwhile to pay attention to seeing how those things are shaking out on a basic layout. That's our tool that we use all the time. Beaver Builder has the ability for us to flip some of those columns sometimes. So if it's supposed to be image text and it's not falling that way, we can really quickly adjust that. But that's where you want a designer taking an actual look at every page and not just trusting that it's going to look and work.
You still need a human. And
Absolutely.
the human element is huge in this process.